You're unskilled, untrained, and unworthy.
You forgot one. Unstoppable.
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. NW Ancestral Legend. Entry number 10 Anastasia the Phoenix Armorer. https://www. YouTube.com/watch. V equals Ukbako 1 rant equals 2268s. Prepare for a magical, spiritual adventure that takes place on the island of Trinidad. A land brimming with soul, culture and the mysterious practice Caledobia. In the book The Obia Woman, you will follow the story of Dora Van Hart, or as the people of Trinidad call her, Mother Dora, through a magical tale that follows the life of an Obia woman as she uses her mystical secrets to both aid and engage in spiritual warfare in the service of her people. The Obia law, passed in Jamaica in around 1898, remains in force with only a few minor amendments today. In this book, The Obia Woman, by author Anastasia Armorer, you will experience the fictional account of a secret practice of Obia as revealed through Mother Dora, along with beautiful illustrations of full-color portraits of the hidden black gods and goddesses, and a tale that will transport you through life in Trinidad and spiritual warfare with hordes of the dark side. The only thing left to do is brace yourself for a fantastic cultural adventure in the book The Obia Woman. Anastasia Armorer, who has traveled a long road since her girlhood in the mountains of Trinidad, writes about mystic adventures in her novels. Drawing on this African-Caribbean tradition, which she learned from her aunties, she puts the healing and good magical powers of the Obia women African-American culture in her books. Anastasia Armorer has been student body president at Tacoma Community College, in Washington, where she holds an associate degree. She has been a social worker and a community organizer. Her novel is growing as fantastically as one of the spells of the Obia woman herself.
One, two, 1, 2. This is Dominic Amiri for We the Students Television Edutainment. We're here today. We got a special guest, one Miss Anastasia the Phoenix Amore, who's here to talk to her about the new book she wrote called The Obia Woman. Hello, Anastasia Amore. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, tell us a little bit about your creative background and your new book, The Obia Woman.
Well, from a child, I've been very creative. I used to draw on any blank paper that I find, and I was always singing. I would be singing in choirs and stuff like that, from the time I was a child. And as I grew up, my family saw the things that I was doing on paper, and they started buying me paints so that I could paint pictures.
Right.
And I have done that all my life.
So, the Obia Woman has some beautiful artwork in the book. What is the story behind the pictures?
Well, they are paintings of the Orishas. I paint the pictures with automatic drawings. That means my hand just do the work more than I do. And, I find that beautiful paintings come out of doing that.
That's right. Through the spirit, huh?
Yes.
One of my favorite parts of the books is chapter 3, the fish lady, Matilda story. I hear there's a funny source of inspiration for this story. Can you tell me more about it?
Yes, well, I have been listening to Matilda's song by Harry Belafonte all my life, and it just occurred to me one day, what if it was her money that she took back from him? And the story developed from there about her making the money as a fish woman and him taking it and finally she getting the courage to take back her money, to take back her life, actually.
What was some of the culture like growing up in Trinidad, and how did this inspire the story of Mother Dora, the Obia woman, in your book?
Well, my life was around Obia women, my grandmother and my aunt. And I learned a lot from them on how to do Obia. I learned about the plants and what they do. And one of my favorite plants is the St. John bush. It's a cleansing plant, and it turns blood red when you boil it. So that was one of my favorite that I learned from my aunt.
Okay. Well, back to the beautiful illustrations in the book. You say that most of the pictures are portraits of African gods or orishas. What inspired you to paint these portraits, and which one of them are your personal favorites, and why?
Well, Elegua is my favorite.
That's on the book's cover, right?
Yes. And Elegua opened the doors for all the other orishas to come through. And he was first and foremost. I love him. He works for me in many ways. And, he was my inspiration. I got it from an African mask that I saw. When I saw the mask, I thought, that is a Ligua. And I painted it just as I saw it, but with all the markings on it that shows that it's a Ligua.
Right. I know that in the days of chattel slavery, it was illegal for the black slaves to worship their deities freely, often under the threat of death. These slaves, they found clever ways to secretly worship or practice their original religion through synchronizing these deities with the white saints of Christianity and doing their worship and their rituals under radar. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, they found that if they pray to the white saints, their masters wouldn't beat them. They would think that they were Christians.
They're synchronizing it.
Yes. And Eligua was placed in St. Anthony. And Shango was Santa Barbara. And on and on.
Right.
Yes, and they did that because no one wants to be beaten.
Yeah.
But they still wanted to worship their ancestors.
Yeah. Beaten or killed, really.
Yes.
Why do you think so many of our people fear their own original religions and culture, whether that be Obia, Santeria, Voodoo, Hoodoo, etc.? Most of our people try our best to distance ourselves from these ancient beliefs many decades after chattel slavery that has to do with, pre-colonial Africa or wherever. Why is that? Why do we distance ourselves from these ancient cultures?
Well, they were taught that these religions were of the devil. They were taught that they were evil. And it's going to take some time to convince them that this is their religion. These are their gods. This is what we were before the white man. And I think in time they will come to see that these religions are not of the devil.
Okay, well, back to the book. The main protagonist is Dora Van Hart, Mother Dora. Who is the Obia woman? How close is Mother Dora's fictional story close to the reality of the spiritual Obia world?
Well, Mother Dora embodies what an Obia woman is. I have seen so many details of Obia women that are so wrong they're nowhere near the truth. And Mother Dora is my way of showing what a real Obia woman is.
Okay, that's great. So what's next, and what can we expect from Anastasia Amore after the Obia Woman book? Is this a series? Are you going to continue to paint? What comes next after this book, the Obia Woman?
Obia Woman 2 comes next. And yes, it is a series, and I will have paintings. I'm planning on doing more paintings for that book. Only time will tell as far as the paintings, because they do take a lot of time.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for your time, Miss Anastasia Amore. And if you want to pick up her book, The Obia Woman, you could get it at Amazon.com. The Obia Woman by Anastasia Amore. Thank you for your time. This has been Dominic Fortune for What's We the Student Television. Be good. Be blessed. Peace.
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. NW Ancestral Legend, Entry Number 9. Dr. Gilda Shepherd https://www. YouTube.com/watch. V equals boo xtckm2 iant equals 1340s Awards Fellowship Awards 2019. Learn about Fellowship Awards. About the role of the artist is like a lover. If I love you, I have to make you conscious of things you don't see. James Baldwin. Gilda Shepherd is an award-winning filmmaker who has screened her documentaries throughout the United States, and internationally in Ghana, West Africa, and at the Festival Afrique 360 Cannes, France, and in Germany at the International Black Film Festival in Berlin. Shepherd is a 2017 Hedgebrook Fellow for Documentary Film and a 2019 recipient of an Artist Trust Fellowship. Shepherd currently completed her documentary Since I've Been Down on Education, Organizing and Healing, developed and led by incarcerated women and men in Washington State's prisons. Since I've Been Down has been accepted at over 13 film festivals in USA and Canada and won the Gold Prize at the Social Justice Film Festival and recognized among Best of the Fest at DOC NYC. For over a decade, Shepherd has been teaching sociology classes in Washington State women and men prisons. She is a sponsor for the Black Prisoners Caucus, and is among the founders and faculty for FEP's Freedom Education for Puget Sound, an organization offering college-credited courses at Washington Correctional Center for Women. Shepherd is the author of several publications including Culturally Relevant Arts Education for Social Justice, A Way Out of No Way, 2013. Gilda Shepherd is a professor of sociology, cultural and media studies at the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus.
Good afternoon, this is Barb Valdez with We the Students Television, and this afternoon I'm with Dr. Gilda Shepherd and Dr. Lee. How are you today?
Fine.
Good. I just want to ask you a couple questions about about campus life here at Evergreen State College in Tacoma. First, I want to ask you a little bit about your background, your educational background, your history, and what made you come to teach at the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus?
Well, I'm the oldest, so I will go first. I've been teaching here for 10 years. My PhD is in sociology and cultural studies, and I'm also a filmmaker. What made me come here is I was teaching at Seattle Central Community College, and I taught in a coordinated studies program, which is an interdisciplinary program. Hence, a lot of different disciplines come together and they cross one another to pull out more learning from each discipline, so it becomes a larger piece of learning. And I was teaching in a class called The Televised Mind, the Effect of Electronic Media on Your Values. And this was more than 10 years ago, because I've been teaching here for 10 years. At first, I did this class thinking, oh my goodness, I need to talk about Durkheim and Weber and Du Bois and so many other people. But then I realized that when I taught with a writing teacher, as well as a history teacher, that my knowledge in sociology expanded, and there was so much faculty kind of development, in a scholarly way, that it extended even my area to becoming a filmmaker. And so it has enhanced me tremendously. And I've also seen, particularly, how I get even more learning from the students, because I'm able to tap into their passions or their interests, and if I don't, then we have another chance with another professor and another chance with another professor in the same classroom under the same thing, not to take away. And so I saw exponentially more learning from our students, and also more faculty development for me. So it's this interdisciplinary kind of way of teaching, and the kind of learning community that develops as a result of it. And people are really collaborative. I mean, they actually are. So, and when they're not, we're able to really reflect on that and put that in teaching and learning, not just as a personality. So
there must be no doubt about whose side we're on. People who commit crimes should be caught, convicted, and punished.
You will be put away and put away for good. 3 strikes and you are out.
In 1993, Washington State was the first state to implement the 3 strikes policy and make it okay to put people in prison and throw away the key.
Young kids were getting involved in horrendous violence. Things were spiraling wildly out of control.
The face of the threat became young black and brown men.
This is our hill. Don't come here.
The police would round them up for whatever reason they could.
What you doing here? You don't live around here.
Some people didn't commit crimes and were just caught up.
All my friends is either in prison forever or dead.
My name's Kamani Carter, and I'm currently serving a life sentence. My history is the life of a lot of kids out there in our community. And my reality as a young man doing life in prison will be their future if we don't start creating better ways of dealing with our children.
For somebody who was 18 years old at the time of the crime, you don't know who he's going to be 20 years on.
It's about being able to see the Kamani that I've become, and not the Kamani that I once was. For a lot of those kids, I don't think that they've matured enough to calculate the consequences for their actions.
He was 11, and the gangs were already starting the recruiting process.
A lot of answers that people in society are seeking will be found in prison. We've caused pain, but we caused pain primarily because we was in pain.
The Black Prisoners Caucus is about liberation.
The more that we begin to educate ourselves, the more empowered we become.
We've created a support group for positivity in the most unlikely of environments.
You're never too old to find that peace with yourself.
Victims are perpetrators, perpetrators are victims. And we're all victims of this system.
George R. Hoya Evergreen / Memoirs Rough Draft War Date, October 12, 2009. Intro, Surve Notice, War Notes. You know that you're alone when your only companion is a lone hovering fruit fly, and you're blessed that he is there. Alone I sit in a tiny cell with a toilet and a sink. I've lost count of how many times I've tried to drown myself by sticking my head in the nasty steel toilet bowl. The walls of the cell are fully covered with swastikas and racist slang. No, I'm not a prisoner in Nazi Germany. I'm in solitary confinement in Pierce County Jail. I don't know how long I've been here or the true nature of my so-called crime. The last time I pressed the button to signal the warden, I was pepper sprayed and attacked so viciously, I wondered if I were still in America. My government name is George Randolph Hoyta Jr. I've always hated that slave name, it makes me feel like property, and I am a victim of police brutality in Tacoma, Washington. The year was 2003, I spent 9 months in police custody, in solitary confinement, being force medicated for allegedly calling the police to my home and then physically attacked 2 armed police officers when they showed up. Take that charge outside and you can fertilize the lawn. After 9 months of virtual hell in a cell when I was deemed fit to stand trial, the charges were dropped with prejudice, which mean either it can't be brought up again or that they can bring it up if I'm ever charged with a crime again. It may be hard to believe, but this is the only time I've been to jail. Before this incident I was in college, TCC, running a local access television show called What's Up? College Edition. I also was using my talents as a rap artist to do public service announcements for various non-profit organizations. In short, I was far from a criminal or gangbanger. Yet the police seemed like they had been waiting for any excuse to kill me, and in 2003 they were going to pounce on the opportunity. The most frustrating thing about this situation is the sense of powerlessness and vulnerability you as a poor young black male have against a blatantly unjust and corrupt system. If you don't have the cops on camera and get it played on the media, you have no case. Cops can kill you and make up anything. After all, you're only a nigger. Suffering this blatant injustice at the hands of these pigs have opened my eyes to the reality of my situation as a young black man in America more than any amount of civil rights footage, Malcolm X speeches, or Farrakhan speeches ever could. Yes, racism is real, and yes, we are at war. When the police can come to your door, beat you down, handcuff you hand and foot, rip the seat of your pants open, tase you in the chest, make it a mental issue to cheat you out of your constitutional rights, then yes, you are at war with a corrupt demonic system. In 2004, after I was released, I was extremely suicidal. I had lost my TV show. My loans were in default, and I was broke. I took every pill I could find around my apartment and passed out. Fortunately, I didn't die, but for weeks my vision was blurred and the room was spinning and I was confined to my bed. That's when I saw the movie The Count of Monte Cristo, and it was like God was talking to me through the movie. The main character, Edmond Dantes, has a promising life snatched from him and is thrown in prison. He is educated in prison, escapes, finds wealth, and seeks revenge on his enemies as the Count of Monte Cristo. I was motivated. I consolidated my loans and went back to TCC on the Spruce program. I took a year of music theory and the teacher became my rap DJ. I then went to Bates and received my barber/stylist license. I then went to the bartending academy and received my mixology license and food handler permit. I took continuing education classes and got my traffic flagger license and my grant writing permit. I then went back to TCC and received my AA in business. Now I'm here at Evergreen. I don't have time to hang with friends. I spend all my time strengthening my mind, body, and spirit for combat. Any kind. I now utilize my talents to help tear down an unjust alien system that I have come to hate. Not with a do something stupid hate. It's a calculated spider's hate. A venomous snake's hate. A calculated chess hate that makes you wake up at 2 in the morning and work out and study all kinds of history and teach you to think technically and study warriors and freedom fighters in order to overthrow the Willie Lynch slave mentality passed down through generations. This is my motivation behind learning the curriculum. This is my story. This is my fight. This is my war journal. Surve Notice, aka George Hoya.
When you go in that cell and that door closes and you're by yourself,
seem dangerous, but if it changes us, maybe it'll be a plus. We must discuss trust and close the gate to the self-hate. Infiltrate and liberate minds till cycles break. Never too late to make a difference. Hell in a cell where murderers dwell. 25 with an L, still we push excel. If we live to tell tales from the dark side, we'll save you a hard drive. Prison's no joyride within these gates. Live violence so great you'll be scared straight, and maybe you'll hesitate before you make a fatal mistake. We gotta end this lifetime sentence, no repentance. Barbed wire fences, toilet bowl stenches, shit seem endless. Don't try me, inside I cry, G, and ask God why me. When I took a life, I paid with mine. No nickels and dime in this prison design. Bottom line, can you swing it? Swing it with no hands. Can you swing it? Swing it with no hands. Can you swing it? Swing it with no hands. Can you swing it?
Prison isn't easy.
America, the nation of incarceration, its own population in each generation. Set up by Satan, a lifelong vacation to camp concentration, last destination. Day by day I grow a bit older, colder, swollen from boulders on my shoulder. In a world full of shanks, drugs, and hate, can I create a twist of fate? Could you relate? The enemy is who I pretend to be, but while I'm rehearsing, please know I'm a person. And as for this ghetto, I was birthed in, baptized in worse sin. When I realized it was curtains, the belly was certain. I can't take back all the families I hurt when I made life subtract. If I could only go back and change the past. If I knew then what I know now, I dropped the mask. But I'll do all I can to flip the script, and through my pain I can leave you one gift. My experience along with one tip. Swing the right way before that one-way trip. Can you swing it? Swing it with no hands. Can you swing it? Swing it with no hands. Can you swing it? Swing it with no hands. Can you swing it? Solitaire is a nightmare. Ain't nothing nice here. I'm fighting for life here. Russian roulette, one player stripped of humanity. Can it be? Insanity's breaking down the man in me. Human cannibals, demonic cannibals, prey on my flesh as I pray for my death. Nothing left, nervous wreck. Impatient waiting, visions of Satan taking a toll on my soul. Hell to pay. Can I write a check when devils collect? Dark thoughts connect. Anger and fear, bloody tears. Damn it, please let me out of here. The warden just laughs as I turn psychopath. Rolls his eyes and turns slow. Ain't his concern, yo. Four walls closing in as my soul burns slow. Prison's hell in the cell. Dante's Inferno. Let me go.
Abandon hope, ye who come here. Don't pass go, don't collect. Freedom's done here. Kept in check by police with big guns here.
Hell in the cell where murderers dwell. 25 with a nail. Maya Angelou may know why K-Bird sing, but I know why cavemen do animal things. And here I'm a number, not social security, maximum security, unsanitary impurities. I'm dying inside, and I don't know how to handle this. Strange out gangster rap made this shit sound glamorous. Reality sucks when you wake up with no freedom. Now you's a slave through the grave is how you leave it. You crossed again, you can get shanked for any reason. There's sharks in this water, so make sure your heart ain't bleeding.
Keep up on your bourbon rap. Some sellies don't give an F. For some ain't nothing left but death. Home, watch your step. To all my peeps on the street, heed the final call. May God find you before you're found behind these walls. If love can't reach you, yo, before you fall, look at me. See your future, I'm your crystal ball.
Abandon all hope, you come here. Don't pass go, don't collect, freedom's done here. Kept in check by police with big guns here.
Hell in the cell where murderers dwell. 25 with a nail.
Ziploc, I'm gonna kill it. House Bill 1126, getting sick of these racist lawmakers' dirty tricks. Yes, I'm against crime, but I ain't blind to this fact. This act profiles blacks, push back people of color. My Latino brothers read my essay to my folks in my essays. It gets mentioned all through the nation. Association, incarceration, as if harsh prosecution is the solution to poverty, racist institutions. Who you fooling when you jump to this conclusion? You known for using the law for law abusing. In fact, to young blacks, 5-0's been known to brutalize, criminalize, otherwise terrorize. I don't roll with slave patrol, nor do I support ambitions of lying politicians. Claim you tough on crime, that a fact. Why don't you lock up Wall Street and Goldman Sachs? Whoever wrote this bill ain't holding out. If they sold us out, go ahead and vote them out. Kill this bill.
Politicians into hip-hop now. They latest hit, a Slave Code remix, Kill Bill 1126. Now I'll take the liberty to change the words from slaves to gangs in order to uncover this diabolical plan. In U.S. history, laws governing the status of gangs were enacted by states that permitted conditions that created them. If law enforcement labeled you a gang member, you were considered a criminal rather than a citizen with only felonious rights.
Don't get it twisted, me and mine don't throw up gang signs. Black is black, red and blue is colorblind. Now that we put it into petty confusion, the gang banging issue, what's the solution? Back in the days, the fighting Irish was gang, and they were a beast, bumping up police. Dead rabbits, damn nabbit, but you gave programs, save them from vultures of criminal culture. Question, why when it comes to the color, our programs fail, except your U.S. jail cell. The U.S. prisons become big business, claim you're saving me with legal slavery. Here's the facts, you never freed the blacks. That's why lies tie inside your almanacs. Created the problem and claimed to solve them. A criminal judging a criminal, ain't that simple. You see through bottled water, answer to the nation you slaughtered. Black, brown, red, and yellow, knee deep to the elbows. Past 1126, hell no, kill this bill.
In this era of privately owned prisons, your incarceration have become the latest family business, where the daughter's the stenographer, the uncle's the judge, the nephew's the prosecutor, the cousin's the defense attorney, the brother's the corrections officer, and the grandfather, well, he's the warden. When free enterprise intersects with a captive market, abuses are bound to happen. Welcome to the prison industrial complex, also known as PIC, a multi-million-dollar industry with its own trade shows and conventions, its own websites, mail order catalogs, and direct marketing campaigns. It includes some of the nation's largest architect and construction firms. No longer a surprise, the plan for our demise have been openly constitutionalized. Kill this bill.
What's happened, officer? Well, little Bo Peep here has lost her sheep and she doesn't know where to find them. Look, if you just leave them alone, I'm sure they'll come home, wagging their tails behind them.
Everybody in the business is a criminal. And how can you ever trust a criminal?
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. NW Ancestral Legend, Entry Number 8, Peter Rem Bacho. Peter Bacho is a writer and teacher best known for his book Cebu, which won the American Book Award. His book is defined as Filipino-American literature because of its explorations in themes such as neocolonialism and Filipino-American identity. Early life and education. Bacho was raised in Seattle. His father was a field worker. He graduated in 1974. 2. Career. Bacho also won the Washington Governor's Writers Award for Dark Blue Suit, a collection of stories. Many of Bacho's books deal with the Filipino experience in the United States. He considers himself an old Filipino writer. 3. Bacho teaches in the Liberal Studies program at the Evergreen State College, Tacoma campus. He is also a lecturer in the Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences program at the University of Washington, Tacoma. Bibliography. Cebu, novel. 1991 Dark Blue Suit, short stories. 1996 Boxing in Black and White, nonfiction. 1999 Nelson's Run, novel. 2002 Entries, novel. 2005 Leaving Yesler, young adult novel, 2010.
What's up? This is Dominic Hoyt here at Tacoma Evergreen State College in Tacoma. I'm here with Professor Peter Bacho, a prominent professor here at the Evergreen College, Tacoma. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes, I wanted to start out asking you, what is your passion here at Evergreen? There seems to be a real sense of school spirit here at Tacoma Evergreen downtown campus. Why do you, what made you start teaching here?
Well, I mean, I got picked up part-time in 2005 and really came all over the place because the mission is different. We have students, adult learners, many of them very different and varied walks of life with extensive history, some of them not very pleasant. And they're here at Evergreen to transform themselves. And it requires a faculty to work on all the different levels of skills. The extra work outside of class, all of these things. But if a student is willing, then change does occur, and people do go on to better lives, and that's what teaching should be all about.
I heard Dr. Peirce mention one time that the type of teaching that goes on here, you get an interdisciplinary education. Could you expand on that?
You're looking at a particular subject or topic from different perspectives, from the historical perspective or from the literary perspective. All of that is embedded in every single class that we teach. There's always more than one discipline that's involved. And this is entirely different from the model used at conventional universities where you have history departments jealously guarding the turf, and political science departments jealously guarding the turf, even though both departments or both disciplines share an awful lot of overlap. But because this is the way it has historically been done at conventional universities, it's probably the way it's going to continue to be done at many of these conventional universities, such as the University of Washington, just about every other major institution I can think of.
And here at Tacoma Evergreen State College, we offered a
bachelor's in liberal arts. Can you define what the liberal arts actually are and how we can apply them to everyday life?
Yeah, the liberal arts are just that. I mean, you don't really have a particular focus, but you do get samplings from, the different disciplines. And it's up to the student to determine in terms of these sorts of investigations, just which way he or she wishes to go, how he or she wishes to take this information and apply it to his or her personal life or graduate school or the next step on the job ladder. Now, the value of interdisciplinary education is that here at Evergreen, there's an emphasis on critical thinking. And for myself, I try to keep my own views out of the critical thinking process because I don't want to taint the process that the student is going to use to reach some kind of conclusion on his or her own. And there may be conclusions that I disagree with, and I'll voice my disagreement at some point. But as long as the process is sound, the process of evaluating information, say this works, this doesn't work, and this is the reason, and so on and so forth, then that's perfectly fine because, people are going to disagree. People they're going to be disagreements. I mean, that's just part of it. But I mean, teaching people to have these processes of thought and investigation, that's a very valuable skill. It means you can solve problems. And we also use, it's a heavy emphasis, and we're right in the middle of it right now, the group project. And all you have to do is take a look around and see how diverse this campus community is. And, to get people from different walks of life, with entirely different backgrounds, possibly from different age groups, to sit down and to come to some kind of agreement about, yes, this is how we're supposed to proceed. Hey, this is how things work in real life. You bring that skill to the workplace. You bring that skill to your next academic level. These are valuable tools.
One last question, Professor Bacho. Could you give us a success story from here at the Tacoma Evergreen State Campus College, and why other students who in the bridge program, wherever they may be, should consider Tacoma Evergreen State College to come to?
Well, I've got all kinds of success stories, but I don't have enough time to tell you this in the brief snippet that we have. But what you will get here at Evergreen is the personal attention of your advisor and other faculty members. The attitude of faculty is to work with students, and that's different from conventional universities. And that's work with students across the spectrum, whether it's enhancing academic skills or in one case at least helping a student find emergency housing. But people went out of their way to make sure that the students stay focused on the educational goals. This is a unique place. This is a wonderful place. This is a pro-student place. And this is a place where faculty have historically been willing to work with individual students. And my guess is that will continue as long as this campus is open.
Thank you, Dr. Professor Peter Bacho. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. NW Ancestral Legend, Entry Number 7, Dr. R.T. Young. R.T. Young. Professor of Law, Public Policy and Cultural Studies at the Evergreen State College. Dr. R.T. Young has decided to leave her position as Executive Director of the Tacoma program and rotate back to faculty. We would like to thank her for the work she has done during her 5 years as Executive Director. During her tenure, the reputation of the Tacoma program has increased within the Tacoma community and beyond. Similarly, the program has partnered with more community groups than ever before. To see us through this transition, Dr. Tyra Smith has been appointed as Interim Executive Director. Please join us in welcoming him to his new position. We are confident that Dr. Smith will succeed in helping the Tacoma program continue to make impressive strides.
What's up, what's up? This is Dominic Hoyt here for We the Students Television. I'm here at Evergreen State College, Tacoma with Dr. Artie Young. Thank you, Doctor, for your time.
You're more than welcome.
Let's start off with Evergreen. What is a little bit of the history behind Evergreen, and why is it so important, Evergreen Tacoma campus, so important to the community of Tacoma?
Okay, so we'll start with the history of the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus.
That's
the way you want to start.
That's great.
Well, I'm told there's a lot of mythology behind the history of the Evergreen State College. There are varying stories. One story says that Dr. Mims started with a group of students doing what we call a cluster contract. Evergreen allows for students to work independently with faculty members. And if there's a group of students who want to work on one project or one idea, then they can do a cluster contract. That means several students working on one idea under the tutelage of a faculty member. And so Dr. Mims was a faculty member at the Evergreen State College Olympia. And she was questioned by the community as to why there was a new school down in the woods in Olympia, but nothing for the people here in Tacoma. And so she said, "You're right, let's start something." And so she began to meet with a group of students. They registered, they applied for admission, were enrolled, never went down there. They worked in cluster contracts, and then it grew into classes. But it was started, I am told, at Dr. Mims' kitchen table. She invited the students. They would hold class in her kitchen simply because there was no building at that time here in Tacoma. Certainly they were building a lot in Olympia, but not here. And so the story diverges a bit, because then there's another story that says that it started at Betsy Diffendahl's kitchen table, who was another Olympia faculty member who lived here in Tacoma, but that Dr. Mims, of course, led the class. At any rate, as people learned about the school, that others wanted to get an education. At that time, there were many retired military folk or persons working at military bases or at the post office. So they had the GI Bill, they had the funds to go to school to realize the dream they'd always held deep in their hearts. And so with this opportunity, they were able to fulfill lifelong dreams. And so the campus grew, and it moved around from different places here in Tacoma, namely in the Hilltop. At one point it was at the Colored Women's Club on Yakima. It was down on Pacific Avenue in a building. And then we were at 12th and I think it's K. And we really grew a lot there. That was a time when the campus changed to leadership as well. Dr. Mims had been the executive director because she had started this group of people who were showing up at graduation, and people down in Olympia were saying at graduation, "Where are all these black people coming from? We've never seen them before." But at any rate, it kept growing, and when Dr. Mims reached a point in her career where she wanted to retire, she handed the leadership over to Dr. Joy Hardiman. And Dr. Hardiman held it for many years, and approximately 3 years ago, I was asked by the provost to lead this campus with the 100% support of the faculty and staff here at Tacoma. And so things have been booming, it seems, ever since I've been in this position. So that's a little bit about the history. We've always catered primarily in the early days to African Americans, and then as we grew, we opened our doors to all. They were always open. But we, more and more, people of color and people with limited means who had been shut out of higher education chose to come to the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus. It's an upper division program, which means that most of our students have been through the first 2 years of college or have accumulated hours through work that they've done. And so we offer an education specifically targeted to working adult people.
I hear a lot around campus, about this campus in particular, that this school, Tacoma Evergreen campus, offers an interdisciplinary education. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Well, the college, that is the pedagogical foundation at the Evergreen State College, is interdisciplinary. That means that you're not learning history in a silo, nothing else. No literature, no mathematics, no science. I was just reading an article in the New York Times Review of Books about a woman, Henrietta Lacks, whose body has supplied the material for scientific research. Something like millions of studies have been done using this woman's body, her body material, after she died, of course. And so Johns Hopkins and other places have been using it. Now, how can you teach bioethics without teaching history? It doesn't make sense. There was a time, you think about the Tuskegee experiment. You've got to contextualize that. And that's science. That's science, that's history, that's math, that's sociology. And so that's what interdisciplinary studies means. The student learns about phenomena from a truly broad perspective. That is, and here at Evergreen, we gear that around a theme. And so the theme becomes the title of the class. And then the faculty approach that theme from their disciplinary points of view. And that way, you learn how to do synthesis work, you learn how to think critically and analytically, and you learn content. So from various perspectives so that it makes sense. There's an old story goes like this. A student from a traditional institution, I'm using that term very loosely because Evergreen has become traditional, but from a traditional point of view says, goes for a job. The employer says, well, we hired you for this, but can you do that? And the student from the traditional institution says, no, I can't do that. I wasn't taught that. My area of concentration is whatever it is. An Evergreen student will say, I've never really done it, but I think I can figure it out. That's the difference.
Here at Evergreen, we are going for our bachelor's in liberal arts. Can you tell me how, explain a liberal arts degree and how it's useful to the student?
First of all, most schools offer more Bachelor of Arts degrees than Bachelor of Science degrees. I mean, there are only two little tracks you can go down. And we believe at Evergreen that a liberal arts education that fits in with the disciplinary question you asked offers a student a broad perspective on the world of knowledge rather than this siloed approach. You know, I have my degree in biology, Bachelor of Science in biology, or I have a concentration in biology with a Bachelor of Arts. That means you've studied philosophy, you've studied history, you've studied science, you've studied sociology, you've studied anthropology, you've studied bioethics, you've studied law, political science, you've studied all of it. That's what it means. And so a liberal arts degree is in many ways a liberating degree, because a liberating arts degree, because it moves you away from this this kind of calcified notion of knowledge. Knowledge is always changing. The thing to do is to learn content, yes, but to also learn how to think.
Right.
Because if you're stuck in some calcified understanding of phenomena, it's a pretty bad position to be in. And so the liberating arts, or the liberal arts, provide the students with an opportunity to just understand knowledge in a way that is constantly changing, that is not just siloed and concretized, but that is palpable and always changing, just like your heartbeat. You get sick and your heart doesn't say, hey, I gotta stop and slow down,
Right.
because then you're dead.
Yeah.
Just like some education is just dead. But the heart is beating, and so the ability to think critically is always beating. And you can accommodate new knowledge as it comes to you.
Wow. One last question, Dr. Young. I think you already answered this, but I'll phrase it in a way to end this off. Why would you suggest? What would you suggest for students who want to get into Evergreen, to this Tacoma campus, and what is the future for this campus, in your opinion?
And first of all, let me take the last part first.
Sure.
The first part last. This campus has within its ambit outstanding possibilities. There was a woman who was publisher of a black newspaper here in Tacoma, Virginia Taylor. It was the Northwest Dispatch. Virginia's idea was that the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus would become the Columbia University of the Hilltop. What is occurring is that the Evergreen State College is the Harvard, the Columbia, the Morehouse, the Howard, the Fisk, the Hampton universities of the Hilltop. It's here. We are unique in our niche here in Tacoma. We provide an education for those students who wouldn't ordinarily think about continuing, many of whom had already given up, some of whom had almost given up, but others who said, I will not give up. And so we take you all. We start with where you are. If you're having problems with math or writing, we provide infrastructure support so that you can rise up to the level that we need. We cannot continue to throw away our citizens if they don't qualify for admission to one university or one college. We must open the doors to higher education if we as a community, a city, a state, a nation are to survive and thrive. The Evergreen State College, quite frankly, in my estimation, is the savior of the Pierce County greater community, because we're educating all our people who come to our doors.
Well, thank you for a very passionate interview, Dr. Ari Young. Thank you.
You are more than welcome. I've really enjoyed talking with you this morning.
This is Dominic Hoyt for We the Students Television and Dr. Artie Young. Thank you.
Native African religions are centered on ancestor worship, the belief in a spirit world, supernatural beings and free will, unlike the later developed concept of faith. Deceased humans, and animals or important objects, still exist in the spirit world and can influence or interact with the physical world.
Morning prayers to the universe, your ancestors, your guiding spirits. 1. Morning prayers to the universe, your ancestors, your guiding spirits. We are all spiritual beings having a material experience. We are so much more than the terrible things that happen to us and so much more than what the systems of oppression, the oppressors and society tell us and reinforce about us. Reminding ourselves of our power, worthiness and our divinity can fortify us and the collective. Praise. I give praise to the universe. I give praise to Mother Earth. I give praise to all of nature and its beings. I give praise to all my guiding spirits. I give praise to my ancestors. I give praise to all that came before me in this struggle. I give praise to my elders. I give praise to all those who have cared for me, protected me, guided me and loved me. I give praise to. Add any others you wish to give praise to. Gratitude. I thank you for allowing me to wake up this morning. I thank you for my breath. I thank you for my body. I thank you for my journey. I thank you for those who brought me into the world. I thank you that all basic necessities are met on a daily basis: sunlight, water, the food on my table, the clothing on my back, my home, my mobility, my job. I thank you for my family. You can name one by one if you wish. I thank you for my community. You can name them one by one if you wish. I thank you for my comrades. You can name them one by one if you wish. I thank you for my elders. You can name them one by one if you wish. I thank you for. You can add anything else you are thankful for. Forgiveness? Forgive us for the harm we do unto you. You can name the earth, the water, other beings, nature overall. Forgive me for the harm I do to myself. Forgive us for the harm we do to one another. Protection and blessings. Protect me, us, from death. Protect me, us, from sickness. Protect me, us, from litigation. Protect me, us, from loss. Protect me from the hands of. Add anything else you want to be protected from. I pray that for long life, good physical, spiritual and mental health. I pray for a cool head and coolness in the world. I pray for fortitude. I pray for resiliency. I pray for clarity. I pray for courage. I pray for a self-love. I pray for. Add anything else you pray for, including people. 2. Libations. Libations are an age-old practice by many indigenous peoples across the globe. It is the act of putting cool water or alcohol on the earth/ground to attract coolness into our spaces and to ourselves. Libations can be done before a ritual or conversation, whether at a protest or in your home, your office, a meeting, or other spaces that may be part of your daily life or community space or events. The concept of coolness. Water is life, we are water and our world is water. Water is of major importance to all living things. In some organisms, up to 90% of their body weight comes from water. Up to 60% of the human adult body is water. The Earth is 71% water. The concept of coolness is integral to the delicate balance of our planet. The rise of 1 to 2 degrees in temperature of the world's ocean that hold 95% of the Earth's water has been catastrophic thus far: hurricanes, tsunamis, melting ice caps. Similarly, when we get hot-headed as individuals or loose or cool, we don't think clearly, we allow emotional challenges to take over, such as anxiety, anger, frustration, self-doubt, etc. We must maintain our own coolness to think clearly, calmly and strategically, and for our own well-being, that of the collective, and that of Mother Earth. Directions. Use a small bowl and put half a cup of water in it. Ensure the water is room temperature or cold. Do not use hot water. Dip your index finger into the water and drop a few drops of water onto the ground while chant the first phrase below: "May the earth be cool." Repeat while you chant each one of the phrases that follow. May Mother Earth be cool. May our guiding spirits be cool. May our ancestors be cool. May our heads be cool. You could add. May conversations be cool. May the day be cool. May our movement be cool. May our comrades be cool. May those who want to harm me be cool. May this day be cool. May. Add any other thing, situation, event, etc. you want to bring coolness to. Close out the libation with call and response 3 times. You say, "May it be so." Group responds, "Surely shall it be." Written by Francisca Porches.
It's not new. I realize that nothing we've been doing is new. We haven't been tapping into new areas of the brain. We've just been awakening the most ancient. This technology is simply a route to powers that conjurers and alchemists used centuries ago. Human race lost that knowledge, and now I'm reclaiming it through virtual reality.
George R. Hoyta, Evergreen/Lyceum, October 26, 2010. Justice is never given, only served, 3/5 human. One of the Lyceum books that I found interesting was The Constitution for Everyone. After completing this book, a light came on in my head illuminating the first step toward the fight for justice against the ruling class and their flunkies. I want to start a petition and movements toward making the Constitution of America recognize black citizens as 100% human beings. This should have been the number one issue on the agenda of every so-called black leader before engaging in ritualistic spiritual marches and begging for integration and jobs. How can anyone even attempt to negotiate for equality when the government doesn't even acknowledge your full humanity? Even worse, how can Obama claim to be a man if he will not even make the motion to make the Constitution of the United States of America acknowledge his full humanity? The cowardice of the black race has gone on way past bedtime. There is only so much that can be blamed on ignorance. I want to propose this motion to Dr. Lanners and the Law Club at the next meeting. I suggest we write up a plan of action, collect signatures, write letters, and do whatever we have to do to make the Constitution recognize black people as 100% human. I don't see how even the most bigoted white person, nor the most cowardly Uncle Tom, can defend against making the Constitution acknowledge black people's full humanity a reality. This, I believe, is the first step in the fight for justice in America. It is a fight for our humanity that can then lead to the reclaiming of our dignity and respect. I am aware of the fight that this demand will bring to those who dare to fight for their humanity. There are many who will see this fight as a road to rebellion that leads to reparations and justice. They would be correct in this conclusion. However, if the black race will not even fight to be recognized as fully human, we do not deserve justice and have earned our fate to die like dogs. If the Constitution can amend prohibition, this 3/5 business shouldn't be a problem or even irrational. I will start this crusade with this issue at the top of the agenda. This is one issue that I believe almost any sane person can agree upon and be willing to die fighting for.
They're going to take you to a higher height. They will be followed up by Surve Notice, who's supported by DJ Music Theory. He hails from Tacoma Community College and the Black Student Union there. He's got a message and he's got purpose.
I have a dream for an exile in his own land.
Yo, black history should not be a mystery. 400 years, blood, sweat, tears, and misery. Literally, millions of lives lost in African Holocaust. Underground railroad, catch the train of thought or step off. It's keeping it real, creeping with steel. And if seeking to kill your brother for skrill is another trap in the track to weaken the wheels, cheapen the deals, while the other man's leading the field. King said we should overcome the new millennium. The time's come to overrun Allah, Jehovah's sons, young black and older ones. All face police hate, lock gates and soldiers' guns. Time for system infiltration. So get your education. Approach each class with dedication. If you gotta be a bookworm, my brother, be that. Break them for their A sharps. Let them keep their D flats. Let them know you're born to be a baller, and you'll be that scholar with dollars. Now you're rolling on the free track, knowing the struggles now, a struggle of the mind. Challenge every doubt, don't let fear draw the line. Register to vote or we'll always be neglected. Want the president elected or Supreme Court selected? Reject this method. I ain't leaving, she ain't leaving, he ain't leaving, we ain't leaving, so we might as well unite and fight for
common reasons for Rosa Parks and those who march to free a wounded nation. But Dr. King and Malcolm X ace every test you taking. But Harriet Tubman and Nat Turner pay with sweat you breaking. The underground railroads in your mind, you reach your destination. No justice, no peace, till the police brutality cease and freedom rings, dream come true. Till justice no longer means just you. We fighting all night till the light come, dream come true. The life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation. A nation, a people, a man in a dream. How many understand what it means? Seen as 2/3 of human beings, how they label me. For my mama cradled me, forced in chattel slavery. Wonder why they hating me. Is it this melanin I'm dwelling in? Black intelligence to the skeleton. I'm that strange fruit with blood at the root that swung from the trees down south when the church got burnt out. Yo, I'm those bodies out of caskets, afloat in the middle passage, victim of circumstances, considered savage. Let you tell it, we damned by the curse of Ham, ain't white and perfect, somehow we deserve this. 400 years, Holocaust in your surface, built this whole country, now all people shirtless. Every promise made of reparations is worthless. When this race surface, you start to get nervous. Hell no, no justice, no peace, till the police brutality cease and freedom rings, dream come true. Till justice no longer means just you. We fighting all night till the light come, dream come true. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. The Rock.
DJ Music Theory and Serve Notice with Dream Come True. And that's the language of the day. We're talking about the dream and we're talking about change. City of Destiny, have you enjoyed this year's 21st annual Martin Luther King Jr. birthday celebration? It's been good, hasn't it?
You realize, Dr. Angelo, that my intelligence has surpassed yours. And I can't allow your fear of what you don't understand to get in the way of this work. The treatments have to continue. We have no choice.
George Hoyta. Evergreen/Lyceum. November 2, 2010. Justice is never given, only served. -4th entry. Please excuse my ignorance. In the last entry, I went on a rant about the Constitution and the 3/5 Compromise. I didn't understand how there could be a biracial president in office who'd neglect to change this section of the Constitution. I felt that a major step in changing the reality of the inhumane treatment of black people had to start with black people taking a stand and declaring their full humanity, starting with the United States Constitution. Although the zeal for this crusade may have been noble, further study into the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments have shown me my ignorance and arrogance. I don't believe that I am wrong in my position, but after researching blogs, news articles, YouTube, and the history of the Constitution, what seemed to be a case-closed argument proves to be much more complex than I have the knowledge, wisdom, or understanding to critically analyze in 2 weeks. I've heard arguments from black activists to skinheads concerning the 3/5 Compromise and the 3 reconstructive amendments, 13, 14, and 15. It appears that the North was the one who declared slaves to be counted only as 3/5 of a human being, due to the fact that if the South had counted their slaves as full human beings, with no economic or political power, the South and the Confederate philosophy would be able to reign supreme in America by vote. Therefore, the compromise was that every 5 slaves would count as 3 votes. Thus, the 3/5 Compromise. Nevertheless, there is no doubt that black people have been done an inhumane injustice that we are still suffering under today. I will still attack the 3/5 Compromise, but must admit that it will take much more time than 2 weeks. I have learned that even though I've spent a lifetime of reading, and even though many of my peers consider me intelligent, I have to admit that I am as weak in American history as I am in mathematics. If I were to present the argument as is, there are thousands of learned white people who could shred it apart with so-called facts, figures, and dates, along with millions of their educated Uncle Toms who would agree with them. I realized, after researching this issue, just how far below the surface black people are buried after centuries of slavery. We don't even have the intellect to argue our own humanity and request justice.
Silence the violence, increase the peace, don't fake the funk, whatever. It's not about that. It's about Quincy, Rhonda, and Kano. These are my homies, and they're also dead. So don't wrap this up in some cute ad slogan with some big sound effects. This is about us. We're killing each other.
What's happened, officer? Well, little Bo Peep here has lost her sheep and she doesn't know where to find them. Look, if you just leave them alone, I'm sure they'll come home, wagging their tails behind them.
Everybody in the business is a criminal. And how can you ever trust a criminal?
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. NW Ancestral Legend, Entry Number 6, Dr. Joy Hardiman. Dr. Joy Hardiman is a brilliant conceptualizer, an inspirational speaker, and a gifted storyteller. She is an educator, scholar, and cultural activist and is a frequent keynote speaker, a sought-after conference participant, and an accomplished institute designer. She is the daughter of Flash and Thelma Hardiman and the mother of Sam Hardiman. After attending the undergraduate writers' workshop at the University of Iowa, she earned her BA from the University at Buffalo. She received her doctorate in applied literary studies and urban education from the Union Institute and is an alumnus of Harvard University's Management Development Program. Dr. Hardiman is currently the executive director of the Evergreen State College Urban Campus in Tacoma, Washington, and a member of the faculty. She is a founding member and an international executive board member of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. As a summer Fulbright scholar, she conducted extensive field research in Egypt, India, Ghana, Kenya, the Yucatan, and Trinidad on the African contribution to world civilization using literary and popular culture analysis as her methodology. The results of Dr. Hardiman's research on ancient Egyptian literature and worldview has been published and referenced in both scholarly works and popular forums. She has been invited to speak on ancient wisdoms, contemporary solutions, the trials and triumphs of spiritual warriorship, the multifaceted role of women of African descent from ancient to contemporary times, and You Can't Kill the Culture, dialogues in the African creative continuum by a variety of national and international academic, community, civic and fraternal audiences. She has also served as a consultant to the Tacoma Art Museum and the Seattle Art Museum. Dr. Hardiman has been an active member in Washington State's higher education institutional, curriculum and pedagogical reform efforts. She was a core facilitator and faculty for the Washington Center for Improvement in Undergraduate Education's Community College Minority Student Success Project, Ford Foundation Cultural Pluralism Summer Institute, and the Phipps National Learning Communities Dissemination Institute. She has worked both regionally and nationally with boards, districts, colleges, administrators, faculty, students, and staffs in numerous areas of professional development.
The story I want to tell today is called The Blinding of Truth by Falsehood. Okay? And it goes something like this. And I move. Okay. And it goes something like this. Once upon a time, truth ruled the world. And when truth ruled the world, there was harmony, there was balance, and there was prosperity. When truth ruled the world. People understood that there was no separation from the spiritual and the physical. That what was above was below, and what was below was above. They understood that life was not finite. It wasn't all consisting of beginning, middles, and ends, and no more. That life was cyclic, and that what goes around comes around, and that sun rises always, always, always follow sunsets when truth ruled the world. When When truth ruled the world, people understood the dangers of polarities, and so they lived in a world of both and beyond. They saw opposites as complementary and generative. No one was a stranger. Everybody was just somebody's mother, sister, daughter going to or from home when truth ruled the world. When truth ruled the world, the cup was always half full and not half empty. People were not victims. Each one, in their own way, was a victor when truth ruled the world. But truth had a brother, and his brother's name was falsehood. And this brother one day decided to ambush truth. And so he hid behind the bushes. And as truth walked by, falsehood leaped up, grabbed truth, tied her arms, tied her legs, and blinded her eyes. And then threw her into a hole. When truth left the world slowly became darker. It became less bright. It started to turn itself upside down, and it shuddered in shame because what was false was now true, and what was true was now hidden. And so all of a sudden in this world, dichotomies came up, and everything became split into male, female, rich, poor, black, white, tall, short, skinny, able, disabled, and all were separate. And everyone started to look at each other as the other, as that which should be feared, as that which should be ridiculed, as that which should be discarded. It was a very, very sad world, this world of falsehood. And people started to lock their doors. And as they locked their doors, they locked their minds. And as they locked their minds, they locked their hearts. And as they locked their hearts, they lost their souls. It was a very sad world when truth ruled the world. Silence took over speech. Fear became the dominant mode. People were told what to do and not asked what they thought. Falsehood's power was so complete that truth was forgotten and media replaced history, and women were made subservient. And this world continued in this dismal state for a long, long time, for centuries, a long, long time. But one day, there were a group of women. And these women knew in their hearts that this world was not the way it was supposed to be. That there was another world, that there was another way. And they knew it because they could hear it whispering in the wind. They could see it in the waning and the waxing of the moon. And they could hear it in the very, very small voices of their grandmother spirits that whispered to them nightly, "This is not the way. There is another way. Separation is unnatural. Collaboration is important. Hate can be destructive. Love can be overwhelming. Resentment can eat you up. Release makes you free." And so these women said, "Let us seek truth. Let us go out into the world." And so they went out into the world and they looked for truth wherever they could find her. And one day they heard this tiny sound. This tiny sound. The sound wasn't really outside. The sound was something inside that was growing and growing and growing. And so they came together and they found the hole that truth was in. And they took their hands and they dug. And they used anything they could to try to get truth out. Any means, any resources to pull truth from the confines that she had been held in. And they brought her home. And they bathed her. And they gave her oil for her skin and perfume for her hair. And they asked her to speak and tell them, how did they come back? What ways are the ways to go? And truth says, listen to Listen to your grandmothers. Listen to your grandfathers. Listen to the women who have led you, who have inspired you. Women like Mildred and Jane. Mildred and Jane, who were the founders of the AAWCC. Listen to them. Listen to them. They gave you the story. They said, come together. Don't work in terms of ego, work in we go. They said, build relationships. They said, build relationships. Call upon your existing resources. You've got connections, you've got organizations. Get those organizations together. Organize, collaborate, and research. Find out what are the necessary skills that you need to bring truth back into your world, into your colleges, into your environments, into your life. Articulate your vision and work hard. Work hard. And remember, as I believe Jane says, what matters is to study and be true to oneself. That is the first step for gaining truth. And so the women listen. They listen to women like Jane and Mildred. They listen to women like their grandmothers and their aunties and people that they had read about in books, and they became strong. Because as they stood on the shoulders of these women, they were not precariously balancing. They were strong and supported because as they stood on their shoulders, the women supported them. The women supported them with stories about how to make a way out of no way. The women supported them by examples, by their pain, their suffering, and their overcoming. And they realized they weren't alone. And once they realized that, they were able to march into history, to march into their communities, to march into their lives as seekers and bringers and carriers of truth.
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. NW Ancestral Legend, Entry Number 5, James L. Walton. James L. Walton is Tacoma, Washington's first black city manager. Born in Dallas, the youngest of 5 children, he grew up in the small Texas town of Mineola. After high school graduation in 1959, he followed his brother, Willie Brown, who would become a prominent California politician, in moving to California. He lived in San Diego, where he attended community college, then served 2 tours of duty in the Army during the Vietnam War, concluding his military service at Fort Lewis, Washington. The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. redirected his resolve. In 1968 he enrolled at Tacoma Community College, where he became president of the Obie Society, the Black Student Union, whose members fought an entrenched status quo for an education equal to that offered white students. 2 incidents in May 1969 defined Walton's leadership style. A showdown between white and black students at Tacoma Community College escalated to violence. Walton was saved from a mob beating by 2 faculty advisors who intervened when the police did not. What we were about was inclusion, says Walton. It wasn't about destroying the campus. It was a conservative approach because we wanted to be system players. Later in the month, in what was to be known as the Mother's Day disturbance, violence broke out in the Hilltop neighborhood, home to most of Tacoma's black population. Walton, the youngest of several black leaders from the area, helped quell the outbreak and win concessions from the city council. From that group of leaders grew the Black Collective, formed to address issues of concern to the black community. Walton continues to help lead the collective today. In 1970 James Walton entered public service when Tacoma's new city manager, Bill Donaldson, persuaded him to accept the position of director of the city's Human Relations Department. The appointment was challenging. Walton had long considered government the enemy, more likely to counter rather than advance black interests. He also knew that many members of the police force viewed him as a radical. Nonetheless he took the job and soon became recognized for his integrity and deliberation. In 1977, Walton became assistant city manager under manager Erling Mork, and in 1990 was promoted to deputy city manager. He was appointed city manager in 2003 and retired in 2005. George R. Hoyta, Lyceum, October 12, 2010. Justice is never given, only served. Second entry. Shaken, not stirred. After reading the book, You Call This a Democracy, by Paul Keville, I was left with almost a sense of despair. The book is one of the required texts from Dr. Shepard's crime investigation class. It deals with the ruling elite and the class system, how they came into power, and how they maintain power. The reason this book left me with a bad spirit is because Keville clearly articulates the mechanics of this corrupt system of injustice, which brings home the cold reality that it will be harder to serve justice to this system than I had originally anticipated. I didn't think it would be a cakewalk, by no stretch of the imagination, but I didn't think that it was almost impossible, until now. My faith was shaken. Last week in Lyceum, a young man from Jamaica, Sean, proclaimed that since he was serving in the United States military, he should also receive United States citizen status. To me, this sounded logical. Kara, however, seemed to disagree. When Amna, the young lady from Pakistan, pointed out that we are all immigrants, say the Native Americans, Kara referred to a homicide bomber in the U.S. from her country. I like Kara, but this argument turned my stomach. We are here at Evergreen State College, Tacoma, to make cycles and break cycles. The first cycle every person of color should seek to break, in my opinion, is the unjust cycle of white supremacy. To this day, all we can think about is getting a position with the oppressor of all people of color and fighting to uphold this corrupt system to the point of arguing why other people of color, even those of the same race, should continue to be disenfranchised. All we want is a job. My faith is shaken. What are we doing here if we aren't setting transcendent goals? Goals of changing ourselves in order to change the system? Don't get it twisted, I am a fan of Obama, I support Obama, I'm happy he is president, and would never work with the universal enemy by criticizing him on television to be used as a black cat's paw against acceptable change. He is the best man for the job and a sign of a change in direction for the world. However, I hate the system, and at the end of the day, Obama is just a brilliant black man in a position to manage the affairs of the ruling class. The ruling class controls everything, and until there is a leveling of power, there will always be injustice. In fact, we as people of color have ceased to criticize the government because we have a colored president who we can live vicariously through and say to ourselves, we have arrived. Obama could not even criticize the police for their blatant injustice without having to backpedal. If he as the president cannot point out wrongs against people of color, I don't see how I can serve justice, even as a criminal attorney, regardless of the undisputed evidence against this system. Our people claim they want revolution, but they want legal revolution, and there is no such thing. Laws are only as effective as the people who enforce them, and as we can see, they can be changed, manipulated, or outright eliminated whenever it suits the ruling class. Although my faith has been shaken, my resolve has not been stirred. I will become a criminal attorney, but I now know that the fight won't end there. I guess I'll have to figure it out as I go. What can be done about the brainwashed, intellectual masses, which are so dependent on this corrupt system? They will fight to maintain it.
What's happened, officer? Well, little Bo Peep here has lost their sheep and she doesn't know where to find them. Look, if you just leave them alone, I'm sure they'll come home, wagging their tails behind them.
Everybody in the business is a criminal. And how can you ever trust a criminal?
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. NW Ancestral Legend. Entry number 4 Harold G. Moss. https://www. YouTube.com/watch. V equals DD1JMWBP equals 31S. Harold Gene Moss, October 1, 1929, September 21, 2021, was an American politician and businessman who served as the 34th mayor of Tacoma, Washington. 2-3, he was the first African American member of the city's council. 3-4-5, its first African American mayor. 3-4-5, and the first African American member of the Pierce County Council. 3-5, Moss's wife, Bill Moss, has also served on the Tacoma City Council. Early life and education. Moss was born in Gilmer, Texas on October 1, 1929, and his family later soon resettled in Detroit during the Great Migration. Moss attended the Lewis College of Business before arriving in Tacoma, Washington during the Korean War as a member of the United States National Guard. 7-8. Career. He first became politically active in the 1950s as a member of the local branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. He served 2 terms as branch president, served on Tacoma's first Human Relations Commission, later Human Rights Commission, and in 1968, Moss helped create the Tacoma Urban League 3-9, and played a key role in securing public funding for its Urban Services Center. 9. Moss worked as a dental technician and also operated a small business, Northwest Porcelain Studios. He later left the business when he was hired by the Tacoma Chamber of Commerce and the Tacoma Area Coalition in the spring of 1968 to run the Central Area Employment Office, soliciting jobs for disadvantaged Tacoma area residents. 10-11, he entered electoral politics in 1969 as an unsuccessful candidate for the Tacoma City Council. 3. A year later, 5 council members were recalled, and Moss was appointed to a seat, 3-5, which he took on October 13, 1970. 5. He was elected to a full term in 1971, 3-5, remaining a full-time employee of the Urban League throughout this period. 3. Urban League National Executive Director Vernon Jordan asked Moss to step down from his elected position in 1975 to avoid compromising the League's nonprofit status. 3. By 1983, Moss was no longer affiliated with the Urban League. That year, he ran unsuccessfully for City Council. 3. In February 1987, he was appointed to fill a council vacancy, 5-12, ran that fall for a full term, 1, and was re-elected in 1991. 3-13, in January 1994, Tacoma Mayor Jack Hyde suffered a fatal heart attack nearly at the start of his term. 3-4, Moss, serving as deputy mayor at the time, 3-14, was appointed mayor 3-4, and served for 2 years. 3. During his administration, Tacoma enacted a youth curfew law. 15. Because the mayor is considered part of the city council, term limits prevented him from running as an incumbent in the 1995 election. 13. During this period, Moss also worked as a civil rights manager for the Washington State Department of Transportation. 1613 Moss was subsequently elected to the Pierce County Council, serving January 1, 1997 to December 31, 2004, 317, including as council chair from 2002 to 2004, at which time he announced his retirement. 3. He ran unsuccessfully for mayor of Tacoma in 2001, and came out of that retirement in 2007 to launch an unsuccessful run for Tacoma City Council against incumbent Spiro Manfred. 6. The 34th Street Bridge was renamed for Moss in October 2019, as he was the city's 34th mayor. 1819. Personal life. In a September 1978 domestic argument, Moss shot his son in the shoulder with a .38 caliber revolver. No charges were ever pressed, and the two later reconciled. 20. Moss died in Tacoma, Washington on September 21, 2020, 10 days before his 91st birthday.
In the end, the one who wins gets to serve and the other one goes home.
Hi, this is Ray Heaton reporting to you for What's Up College Edition. On November 6th, Tacoma's mayor race comes to a head between Harold G. Moss and Bill Barsama. Dominique and Patrick bring you live footage to help you, the student, the viewer, and the voter decide Tacoma's next mayor.
I've had a deep and abiding interest in civil rights. Civil rights was what brought me into the political arena. Somewhere along the line you learn that you've got to stop hollering in the wind and get on the other side of the bench and try to help make laws that change things for people.
What's up? This is Dominic Hoyt coming live from What's Up College Edition here at TCC Forum. I'm here with the candidate for Tacoma's mayor, former mayor and county member, Harold G. Moss. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine. It's good to be here. Thanks, Dominic.
Oh, no problem whatsoever. Now, we were wondering, what are some of your views on the rise in tuition going on in Tacoma? What are some of your views and your thoughts on that?
Oh, now that one hurts, because the limited ability for city or county elected officials to affect it. We're just kind of witnesses to it. You know, I have to be absolutely straightforward with you, because in my lifetime I don't recall much of anything that remained the same. And so rising tuitions, as with the rising cost of a loaf of bread, is almost inevitable. So I regret that that cost go up, but then I am so pleased that you have the option to try to still get a very good education.
If there was one thing you could change or improve about the city of Tacoma as mayor, what would it be?
Oh, I'd start with a whole lot of things. All of the vacant buildings downtown that used to have thriving businesses would have thriving businesses again. I would love to see neighborhoods where properties have run down, that we had some program that not only trained people but put people to work in refurbishing them. That would be just wonderful. I'd love to see Tacoma go out and get the kind of industry that's clean, that has high-paying jobs, family wage jobs, all of those kinds of things. To me, there's nothing wrong with knowing that way off in the distance, that's where you're trying to get.
If you could describe the bone marrow of your campaign that you've been running and what you stand on inside, how would you describe it?
Well, it is the absolute commitment to working with people. I have seen almost the impossible take place when you bring folk together to resolve a problem. When you bring them together, when you are dedicated to listening to divergent views, when you are willing to step in and be the arbiter. When you then, with the full power and majesty of the mayor's office, convene a setting, people come, and it's how they are treated, how respectful you take their ideas, that is a real generator.
Well, it was a pleasure to hear you here and have you here on What's Up College Edition. Harold G. Moss, November 6th.
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. NW Ancestral Legend, Entry Number 3, Virginia Taylor. The Northwest Dispatch, Tacoma, Washington. 1982 Current dates of publication 1982 Current created. Published Tacoma, Washington, Virginia Taylor. Subject headings: Tacoma, Washington Newspapers, African Americans Washington, State, Newspapers, African Americans, Washington, State, Washington, State, Tacoma, United States Washington Pierce Tacoma Genre Newspapers Notes, 5 issues a week. Began in 1982. Publisher, Northwest Dispatch Newspapers. Description based on Volume 2, No. 30, March 2, 1984. Latest issue consulted, Volume 10, No. 58, April 24, 1992.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Hot off the press and Tri-County routed. The Northwest Dispatch, 20 years old. On top the hill, represent black, green, and gold. Game packaged and sold. News printed and told. Ain't nowhere to run from. The urban 411 from hilltop to Thurston to Kitsap emergent. Convergent on those living suburban for certain. Behind the curtains, Virginia Taylor's been working. A black team observing. Community serving. A people who've been silenced by a muzzle. Truth and it's tailor-made to fit black struggle. Believe that. This is Dominic Fortune, the infamous Game Untamed, representing hip-hop live, you know what I'm saying? Happy 20th anniversary to the Northwest Dispatch. Get the papers. Get the papers. Peace.
truth is whatever people want it to be, and people are everyone except yourself. Reality is whatever people choose to say it is. There are no objective facts. There are only people's arbitrary wishes. A man who seeks knowledge in a laboratory by means of test tubes and logic is an old-fashioned, superstitious fool. A true scientist is a man who goes around taking public polls. And if it weren't for the selfish greed of the manufacturers of steel girders, who have a vested interest in obstructing the progress of science, you would learn that New York City does not exist, because a poll of the entire population of the world would tell you by a landslide majority that their beliefs forbid its existence. For centuries, the mystics of spirit have proclaimed that faith is superior to reason, but have not dared deny the existence of reason. Their heirs and product, the mystics of muscle, have completed their job and achieved their dream. They proclaim that everything is faith, and call it a revolt against believing. As revolt against unproved assertions, they proclaim that nothing can be proved. As revolt against supernatural knowledge, they proclaim that no knowledge is possible. As revolt against the enemies of science, they proclaim that science is superstition. As revolt against the enslavement of the mind, they proclaim that there is no mind.
George Hoyda, Lyceum, October 4th, 2010. Justice is never given, only served. Justice is never given, only served. This simple statement is going to be the basis of my writings in this class. It will be the rough draft prequel to my senior synthesis for Evergreen State College, Tacoma, which will cover all I have learned from both cycle makers, cycle breakers, and freedom and justice for whom programs. By utilizing the wealth of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that has spurred my personal growth through the Evergreen experience, I plan to clearly articulate my personal challenges, which may be shared by other students, and what needs to be done in order for we the students to ensure that we maintain our freedoms, while ensuring justice is not only debated, but also served. Due to the secret war waged on the African American male in America, I have made the decision to become a criminal attorney. One of my favorite movies is the movie Panther, directed by Mario Van Peebles. Based off of the lives of the original Black Panther Party for self-defense, Panther shows how the dynamics of power can change when people of color know the law, are aware of their rights, and are willing to fight for them. According to Dr. Amos Wilson, the best way to change America is to change ourselves. In other words, those who uphold this system of injustice and exploitation cannot continue to be what they are unless we continue to be what we are. In this light, the power of revolution is truly in our hands. I am pleased with the level of diversity in this year's Lyceum group. Listening to different points of views from students from many different cultures helps me to expand my own level of consciousness and awareness by seeing justice and injustice from many diverse angles. I am also enjoying Dr. Shepard's crime investigation class. I love the curriculum, and I am learning a vast amount of knowledge about classism, the ruling elite, and laws of power. These lessons will aid me in my journey to become a criminal attorney and provide valuable weapons in my arsenal towards the fight for power and justice. I have purchased the book LSAT for Dummies to help myself prepare for acceptance in law school. I have also registered for CLEO for January 22, 2011 conference, as well as joining the Evergreen State College Tacoma's Law Club. In addition, I am also attending expository writing class in an effort to improve my writing skills toward law school level. I am optimistic about my senior year at Evergreen and will be giving every ounce of my blood, sweat, and tears in the effort of overcoming my circumstances and transforming myself in the hopes that I can help to transform others toward the quest for true justice.
If you surrender your power to perceive, if you accept the switch of your standard from the objective to the collective, and wait for mankind to tell you what to think, you will find another switch taking place before the eyes you have renounced. You will find that your teachers become the rulers of the collective, and if you then refuse to obey them, protesting that they are not the whole of mankind, they will answer, "By what means do you know that we are not?" "Are, brother? Where did you get that old-fashioned term?" If you doubt that such is their purpose, observe with what passionate consistency the mystics of muscle are striving to make you forget that a concept such as mind has ever existed. Observe the twists of undefined verbiage, the words with rubber meanings, the terms left floating in midstream, by means of which they try to get around the recognition of the concept of thinking. Your consciousness, they tell you, consists of reflexes, reactions, experiences, urges, and drives. and refuse to identify the means by which they acquired that knowledge, to identify the act they are performing when they tell it, or the act you are performing when you listen. Words have the power to condition you, they say, and refuse to identify the reason why words have the power to change your blank out. A student reading a book understands it through a process of blank out. A scientist working on an invention is engaged in the activity of blank out. A psychologist helping a neurotic to solve a problem and untangle a conflict does it by means of blank out. An industrialist, blank out. There is no such person. A factory is a natural resource, like a tree, a rock, or a mud puddle. The problem of production, they tell you, has been solved, and deserves no study or concern. The only problem left for your reflexes to solve is now the problem of distribution. Who solved the problem of production? Humanity, they answer. What was the solution? The goods are here. How did they get here? Somehow. What caused it? Nothing has causes. They proclaim that every man born is entitled to exist without labor, and the laws of reality, to the contrary, notwithstanding, is entitled to receive his minimum sustenance, his food, his clothes, his shelter, with no effort on his part, as his due and his birthright, to receive it from whom? Blank out. Every man, they announce, owns an equal share of the technological benefits created in the world. Created by whom? Blank out. Frantic cowards who posture as defenders of industrialists now define the purpose of economics as an adjustment between the unlimited desires of men and the goods supplied in limited quantity. Supplied by whom? Blank out. Intellectual hoodlums who pose as professors shrug away the thinkers of the past by declaring that their social theories were based on the impractical assumption that man was a rational being. But since men are not rational, they declare, there ought to be established a system that will make it possible for them to exist while being irrational, which means while defying reality. Who will make it possible? Blank out.
Hey, y'all, come out here! It's the police! It's the brothers! We're going! Get some backup! Get the hell out of here! Get out of here!
So, Huey, so what's your telephone number?
Well, I confirm with you my address. That's all I'm required by California law to do. He ain't broken no law.
Then what are you doing with that gun?
Well, what are you doing with yours?
Let me see that rifle, son.
No. This is my private property. According to California law, we got a constitutional right to bear arms.
What?
Okay, move along. Go on about your business. Wait, brothers, sisters, no. You ain't got to go nowhere. This is your business. Stay right here. The law says, as long as you stand a reasonable distance, that's 8 to 10 feet to be exact, you got a right to observe the police carrying out their duties. From what I can see, you're standing 22 feet away from this man. So, brothers, ain't no law being broken.
That's right. You stay right where you are. You ain't got to go nowhere.
Learn about the Black Panther Party.
Is that gun loaded, boy?
Fish and game law clearly states it's unlawful to carry a live round of ammunition in the chamber of a shotgun or rifle in a vehicle. Pig.
Refer to him as officer. Then don't you refer to him as boy.
Well, is it loaded?
I tell you, officer, it wasn't, but now it is.
Ooh, them's a badass nigga. Now, for the last time, boy, what do those guns mean?
They mean, pig, that the Black Panther Party declares you try to brutalize our community, you try to take our weapons. We'll shoot you, man.
Back.
Jesus, I think I done died and gone to heaven.
What's happened, officer? Well, little Bo Peep here has lost her sheep and she doesn't know where to find them. Look, if you just leave them alone, I'm sure they'll come home, wagging their tails behind them.
Everybody in the business is a criminal. And how can you ever trust a criminal?
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. NW Ancestral Legend, Entry Number 2, Thomas Dixon. Thomas Dixon first came to Tacoma while serving as an airman at McChord Air Force Base. He became the first director of the Hilltop Multi-Service Center in 1996 before taking a role as the inaugural executive director of Tacoma's new affiliate National Urban League. Thomas served in this position for 34 years, working diligently for economic development, job training and social services. In addition to this work, he was a prominent voice in the struggle for racial and social equity and progressive change in Tacoma while also serving as a mentor for the Black Collective, a weekly gathering of black civic leaders. Thomas Dixon, a leader and central figure in Tacoma's civil rights movement, is the 11th annual recipient of the Greater Tacoma Peace Prize. Dixon, inaugural executive leader of the Tacoma Urban League and a mentor to 2 generations of Tacoma community leaders, will travel to Norway in December of 2015 to be a part of the celebrations surrounding the award of the Nobel Prize for Peace. He will also be honored at a banquet to be held at Pacific Lutheran University in October. Born the grandson of a slave in Georgia in 1931, Dixon remained in Tacoma after retiring from military service at McChord Air Force Base in 1964. 2 years later he became the first executive director of the Hilltop Multi-Service Center, part of a major federal anti-poverty program. Later that year he became chair of the Tacoma Urban League Organizing Committee while also serving as a staff member of the Washington State Economic Opportunity Department, which reported directly to the governor. In 1968 he became the inaugural executive director of Tacoma's new affiliate of the National Urban League, a position he held for 32 years. As the Tacoma Urban League executive officer, Dixon worked assiduously for economic and community development, job training, and social and health services for all in need, but especially underserved and underrepresented African Americans. In the late 1970s Dixon worked 2 years for Tacoma Public Schools as an assistant superintendent, through an operating agreement between the Urban League and the school district, to design and implement a comprehensive affirmative action plan. In 1968 he received an honorary doctorate from the University of Puget Sound. As a leading voice for civil rights and social justice throughout Tacoma and Pierce County, Dixon advocated progressive change to a then conservative, predominantly white city leadership, responded to an outbreak of racial violence in the Mother's Day disturbance of 1969 with a strong voice of nonviolence and conciliation, co-founded the Black Collective, a weekly gathering of black concerned citizens and civic leaders that continues today. Thomas Dixon has lived a life that embraces deep commitments to justice, reconciliation, cooperation, and the betterment of others, and he has nurtured these values in more than 5 generations of community leaders. For his longtime dedication to peace and justice for all, the 2015 Greater Tacoma Peace is awarded to Thomas Dixon.
On behalf of Tacoma Housing Authority and the Tacoma Urban League, it says presented to Thomas Dixon in recognition of your extraordinary commitment to service, sustained engagement, and empowering others to become involved with our community. May the families that reside within these homes feel the compassion, caring, and encouragement which you have given to so many who have crossed you.
But I'll use my father in Sparta, Georgia. That's where I was born, out in the country. Was a medical doctor, one of the first medical doctors in Georgia. Every morning he would take the 5 of us, 5 children, to school, 3 miles. most black children walk to school. From our house to the schoolhouse. My daddy's 37 Chevrolet would have 15 or 16 children in the car. My brother and I would sit on by the front lights or on the fender. Dr. Dixon didn't pass any students. So whatever I know, I learned from him.
1, 2, 3.
We've been together in an employer-employee relationship since early 1970. If you don't lift people up, they won't get there. And somebody had to help. And Tom was he was that guy. I'm just happy. I'm happy to be here, he and I.
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. NW Ancestral Legend, Entry Number 1, Maxine Mims. Maxine Mims' mother taught a neighbor how to read. And her father refused to let his children experience humiliation on public transportation in segregated Virginia. They walked everywhere during the Depression. Maxine grew up steeped in black pride and service. She became an ally of MLK and Maya Angelou. Maxine Mims. Mims in the late 1960s poses for her official photo for Seattle Public Schools. Mims Collection. In 1968 she was named Sensitivity Training Director for Seattle Schools, a position financed by the Civil Rights Act. 4 years later, she joined the faculty for the Evergreen State College. She also began teaching college-level coursework at her kitchen table in Tacoma's Hilltop neighborhood, providing access to four-year degrees for working adults. Evergreen's Tacoma program has now awarded more than 2,700 degrees, a legacy that generates generational success stories. At 90, Dr. Mims conducts classes in her Mason County home. There's a constant stream of visitors. This phone rings 24/7, says a close friend. She is solving the problems of the world sitting in that chair.
We are all builders in this room. All builders. If you hear that the campus is going to go, design your own, in your own kitchen, in your own living room, in your own church. Never let anybody of the dominant society take something away from you externally when it's in your heart. This is in our hearts. The Tacoma campus will never go.
Yes.
A building could go,
ever.
close up forever, but a Tacoma campus will always be here. No one will ever take it away, and even when I die, I'm coming back to make sure. It did not start with the building. It started in my kitchen, around my kitchen table. It starts with an idea in your spirit. You allow your heart then to engulf it, you embed it in your spirit, and you keep it going. I don't care if they're talking about, let me tell you something about white people and money. The Tea Party is a movement. It's a movement to frighten people. When you start hearing language about this building is leased and all that, that's to frighten you. Nothing to be afraid of. When you stand up, what is your name?
Ben.
What's your first name?
Ben.
Ben?
Yes, ma'am.
When you stand up with yourself and say, I have formed a Ben College, that's all you have to say. Say it every day to yourself. And you walk around as president of your own college. Walk through your own house and say, I'm Ben. Walk in your bedroom, look at a full-length mirror and look at President Ben. If you don't have anybody sitting in there with you, go get you some dolls and put them around. But know that it can never be taken away from you. And once you understand that, once it's embedded in the spirit, you walk free. I've heard the story of this campus, that campus, and Maxine, I've heard so much about budget cuts until I have turned white. I have heard, you hear budget cuts all the time. Yeah. Come here, RT. Nobody on earth can look at her and get rid of a campus. That's right. Not the intellect, the degree. RT Young will sue you. Come on. And Barbara Landers will do the research. She will. And Watcho will write the briefs. You have three lawyers on this campus. 3 lawyers. Barbara, Peter, and RT. And you think somebody walk in here and I'm still alive and say I'm closing it? Oh, let's talk about something else. Let's go shopping in Nordstrom.
I just want to thank everybody, and with people who are asking, you know, what can I do? How can I go back to college after, you know, after my BA? I sat there, and I was a bridge student, 30 years old, had graduated high school several years ago. It was like 10, 15 years before I graduated, and I am now a faculty at Washington State University, running the largest youth program in King County. And all because of the bridge program, Dr. Joy, everything for college. And I'll tell you, there was the bridge program, Rudy, who was a science teacher, wrote on my paper, Dr. Nancy. That inspired me, and I keep that today. These people will hold you to the highest esteem and help you, and you are going to achieve amazing things. And I just want to thank all the professors. Thank you.
Talked about getting into global. We need to go global. We need to learn to be global. The issues, all of the issues that we have here through education, each one of us is a person that can pass it on down the line. Whatever it is we know, whatever it is we've mastered personally, becomes part of that little global image of education that we can get back to the students. Wow. So the question is, can we borrow Evergreen to be able to work with the students, to be able to teach them the arts so that it doesn't get lost in the matrix that we have already created, that you created in this campus right here.
And the question is, can you do it?
Can we do it? Can, as everybody here, can we all say, yes, we will do this for our children? Because they're our legacy right here behind us. Because if we don't, we're leaving them.
I want to say something. They already have said yes. So they're here.
So they're here, so what day can we meet?
Women, now be careful. You're throwing a structure before.
No, open discussion right now. We need to see what is really.
But you're asking for a commitment before I'm ready to even know who I am in relationship to your question. So give me some time to breathe. Give me some time to be solid. Give me some time to incubate what I've just heard. We need time to be solid with an idea. We need time to incubate images, because so many images are there with no substance.
Yes.
You have the R-E-E-L that makes you think it's R-E-A-L.
Right.
So when you have Desperate Housewives on Joy likes to look at, Let me use that because I used Joy because we're close. Let me use that. Let's use Housewives of Atlanta.
Okay.
Let's just use that. Everybody in this room recognizes that in our community, it looks like this. Atlanta is the mecca of sophistication. Yes. But if you want to destroy that, you put on Housewives of Atlanta, who acts like a bunch of fools. So, what we'll find ourselves doing is talking about the Atlanta housewives, and don't they chat, and aren't they gossipy? And the next thing you know, you're saying things about Atlanta that has never been said. Some of our greatest universities are in Atlanta. Some of our greatest historical black colleges in Atlanta. But we have people watching Housewives of Atlanta. I bet if you found a black woman who is married to a wonderful electrician in Atlanta, you wouldn't see her on that program. I bet if you found a wonderful school teacher married to a plumber, you wouldn't see her on that program. So the real takes over, and that image becomes the image that we imitate, and we have no substance. Joy, I demand that you get more substance. I want to talk about New York. Joy said she'll go to Housewives of New York.
It's more, I don't know if a question may come out of it, but it was just when you when you were talking about language. And it sparked this because I facilitate domestic violence groups with women in Seattle. And so there was a story that came up in my research for what group was going to be. It's the two little words. And that is, if I had not, if only, right? And you take those words out and you substitute them, like you were saying, you substitute the words with next time. Your mental thinking about the situation will change. And so if we hear that our campus is Walmart-ish or whatnot, or that he was not using the language of the Tacoma campus, because that's what it says on this. And that's what it says and when you go to the Olympia Tacoma campus. So we're a separate a campus as well. We're not beneath the Olympia campus, in my opinion. But I'm just, that's just my own personal opinion. I'm a little biased. But so with that, what I'm saying is with language, how do you take the language that our children are learning from us and hearing in the streets and incorporate that they're changing it so it's positive for their future?
You have to stop seeing yourself making something equal. That's right. You cannot always be there trying to be equal. Come on. You just can't. It's impossible. You were born equivalent. There's a big difference in the concept of equal versus equivalent. When you have an equivalent relationship, there does not exist a main campus and a so-and-so campus. Once you say main, this show ain't. You only have, for Evergreen, an Olympia campus and a Tacoma campus because they're equivalent. You've got to get that in there. If you want to say Olympia program, Tacoma program, that's fine. But you can't use the language main campus and you become a center. Once you become a center, then the concept of leasing becomes an issue. They will take it away from me due to budget cuts. It's impossible for us to be cut from a budget. We have 3 lawyers on a campus. You've got to understand what's here. You've got 3. One who worked for the Supreme Court. Now, you can't walk around talking about main campuses and leasing and I'm wondering. You've got the top notch. You've got a Michelle Obama. You've got a Barack Obama. You've got a Dr. You've got a film. Gilda. You let them come out here with some bulldozers trying to tear this down and take this. Get them and film them. Kill them or film them and put it on YouTube. It'll be a revolution. You know. Think of who's here. What's your field, Tony?
Political economy.
Oh, come on now. You have a young man with energy. Political economy. Do they know what that means? What does it mean? Somebody quick. Make it up. Somebody quick. Just tell me.
Say again.
What does political economy mean?
Economy is based on economics. It's policies that are set based on making money.
Now, did you hear yourself answer your own question, which you asked me a half hour ago?
Yes, ma'am.
That's it. That's the brilliance of you. That's the 360. That's the brilliance. You could develop a campus. Okay. Let it be. That's what's up.
George R. Hoyts resume. Serve a notice at gmail.com. Paralegal student / barber / bartender / professional performer. Accomplishments. Co-author and published book, The Obia Woman, by Anastasia Armour, available at Amazon.com. 2018 spokesman for the Empowerment Zone Team in 1993. Traveled to Washington, D.C. with Tacoma. Mayor Harold Moss, Freight House Square owner Keith Stone, and others. Met with the Secretary of HUD. Henry Cisneros and other delegates contributed to earning $2 million for the city of Tacoma. Articles and pictures are published in the News Tribune and Facebook. Performed at the Tacoma Dome twice for the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. birthday celebration in 2009 and 2010 with Drive John Falskow, Dean of Tacoma Community College / conductor, Seattle Symphony. Together, we form the group Surve Notice and Theory. We have recorded and released multiple albums and have done college tours around Tacoma and Seattle, WA. Another member of our group is Sam Caviezel, bass Hoven, is a current clarinet player for the Philadelphia Orchestra. Member of Strive since 1991. A youth local access television group that produced the show What's. Later I reproduced the show at TCC from 2001 to 2003 called What's Up? College Edition. I was the producer of the show and the president of the club. Starred in multiple PSAs for television. EFN, Food for Thought, 1990 Pecan Stuck, 1992. MTV Rock the Vote, About Us, 1994 Evergreen Law Group, Identification, Search, Shut Up. 2011-1992 Youth Hall of Fame Creative Genius Award for creating poetic / rap form of the classic story of Hamlet. My work was published in Ocean Edge magazine in 1993. My name was engraved on two stones in the Tacoma Mall for 10 years honoring the Youth Hall of Fame. Guest on Tacoma Radio Y.104.9 for the song Blood Oath, a tribute to Urban League Academy. Teacher, Michelle Beaupre. Published poet for the Tacoma Northwest Dispatch newspaper 1998 to 2002. Multiple works published in El Calcho magazine, a Latino newspaper in Tacoma, Northwest. 1999 spokesman for Evergreen State College Tacoma Law Club. Worked on expungement clinic. Participated in the San Francisco Clio LSAT workshop. Guest on the Podcast Institute for Black Justice, hosted by Carol Mitchell. Promoted the book, The Obia Woman 2021 hip-hop historian and creator of the Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum on Facebook. Highlights Northwest hip hop and a broad history and cultural narrative. Features live interviews, information, and links. Also features the blog, The Artifacts newsletter, written and published by myself. Professional experience. Public speaking and leadership. I am a professional performer that has been in the spotlight since I was 12 years old. I have perfected my craft through years of educational training, practice, and life experience. For this reason, I am usually the face man when it comes to promoting a group effectively. I am a published author, and I have acquired multiple skills throughout my years of educational training. I am highly creative and can usually come up with groundbreaking ideas when brainstorming alone or in a group. Youth Hall of Fame Creative Genius Award. Empowerment Zone Spokesman for the Youth and Young Adults of Tacoma. Spokesman for the Law Club at Evergreen State College, Tacoma. Employment History Northwest Dispatch, Tacoma, Washington 1992 to 2001 Reporter/Poet Journalist Tower Records, Tacoma, Washington 1992 to 1994 Buyer, Cashier, Customer Service, Custodian Texaco Gas Station, Tacoma, Washington 1995 Cashier/Product Stocker/Customer Service Professional Services Unlimited. Fort Lewis, Washington 1996 Dishwasher/Busser Do Well Services and Supplies, City, State, 1997 Commissary Warehouse Worker/Custodian Strive, Tacoma, Washington 1991 to 2003 Reporter/Director/Camera Tech/Video Editor/Spokesman Evergreen Law Group, Olympia, Washington 2012 to 2012 Paralegal in Training DSHS, Anastasia Armour, Tacoma, Washington 2017 to 2021 Home Care Assistant Education State and High School, Tacoma, Washington 1992 HS Diploma, General Urban League Academy, Tacoma, Washington 1998 Certificate, Business Communications/Typing, Tacoma Community College, Tacoma, Washington 2008 Associate of Arts, Business Administration, Bates Technical College, Tacoma, Washington 2008 LL.B. Barber/Stylist Bartending Academy, Tacoma, Washington 2008 LL.B. Mixologist Evergreen State College, Tacoma, Tacoma, Washington 2012 Bachelor of Arts, Liberal Arts Communication Skills Reading, Writing, Leadership, Public Speaking, Typing, Acting, Performing Arts, H. Paralegal Experience, Business Communication Negotiation, H. Video Operator, Editor, Creative Ingenuity, Customer Service, Publications The Obia Woman by Anastasia Armour, The Obia Woman, at Amazon. Tom, August 2017, novel, book, The Artifacts Newsletter, The Artifacts Newsletter, blogger, Tom, April 2022, to the Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. Facebook. Tom, March 2022, Northwest Dispatch. Multiple poems for newspaper by George Boyce. Virginia Taylor, Pat Richardson. January 2002, The Evergreen Law Club. Tacoma Facts Newspaper. Tacoma, WA. January 2011, Affiliation Spokesman/Reporter/Director/Camera and Video Tech. Strive. Tacoma, WA, 1991 to 2003, a spokesman for youth and young adults at Tacoma, WA, Tacoma Empowerment Zone Team, Tacoma, WA, 1993 to 1994, Camera Tech/Actor, Swab TV, Tacoma, WA, 1999 to 2003, Paralegal in Training, Evergreen Law Group, Olympia, WA, 2011 Student Body Senator, Tacoma Community College, Tacoma, WA, 2008 to 2022, Licensed Mixologist, Bartending Academy, Tacoma, WA, 2008 Traffic Control Flagger, Tacoma Community College, Tacoma, WA, 2008 Barber Stylist, Bates Technical College, Tacoma, WA, 2007 to 2008 Training LSAT Prep, Clio Law Conference, San Francisco, TA, 2011 Honors Hamlet, Rap, George R. Hoyda, Youth Hall of Fame Creative Genius Award, Tacoma, WA, 1992 ASG Scholarship Award, Bates Technical College, Tacoma, WA, 2008 Talent What's Up, /What's Up, College Edition, Producer/Performer/Director/Actor, Strive, Honor Roll, Remember George Rampage Armor, Black Sheep of Tacoma, Full Movie, Producer, Performer, Actor, Director, Editor, Students Television.
Harold G. Moss, Council Member, District No. 4. December 16, 1998. To whom it may concern. I am writing this letter on behalf of Mr. George Hoyt, a young man that I have come to know and admire over the past 4 to 5 years. I met Mr. Hoyt during the time I served on the Tacoma City Council and as mayor of the city. Mr. Hoyt was chosen to represent the city's youth in Tacoma's Empowerment Zone application in 1994. During this time, Mr. Hoyt, along with city staff, community representatives, Congressman Norm Dix and I traveled to Washington, D.C. to make the formal presentation of our application directly to Henry Cisneros, Secretary, Department of Housing and Urban Development. It was during that time I noticed George's rare gift for negotiation. He spoke with the Secretary confidently, listened and demonstrated a patience far beyond his years. The Secretary confidently listened and remarked about his presentation and depth of knowledge of what young people could expect from being included in the application. George continues to be active in the community. His participation has centered on his interest and skills in media projects. He's an excellent interviewer who possesses a real sense of depth and asks insightful questions. He is also involved with Strive, a youth-sponsored television program that focuses on involving young people in the direct hands-on experience of video production. I am particularly pleased with his production called Jones in the Speed Zone. The show, which was created as a result of a vision George had, is aimed at educating young people on how to deal with the issues they face. The show hopes to impact young people by showcasing their peers handling negative situations in positive ways. It is using the old adage, if you give a man a fish, he can eat for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, he can eat for a lifetime. I take great pride in recommending him to you as a dedicated young man whom I have a lot of faith in and who has a bright future ahead of him. Should you have additional questions or would like further information, please feel free to contact me at 253-798-7590. Sincerely, Harold G. Moss, Council Member, District 4.
Classical education.
The Evergreen State College, Tacoma Campus, March 12, 2022. To whom it may concern. From Peter Baccio, J.D., LLM. Regarding George Hoyt, TCC student. George Hoyt, my former student at the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus, has asked me for a letter of support for financial assistance in order to continue in his academic program. I do so gladly. I have had him in an array of classes during his time at the Tacoma campus. I was also his advisor and know his work well. As a student, George was outstanding, gifted, and focused. His questions and comments on issues ranging from law, politics, history, literature, and public policy demonstrated careful preparation for each class discussion. He is a mature, dedicated, and highly focused adult learner. He was a meticulous researcher and a strong writer. He demonstrated sophisticated critical thinking skills. He is capable of analyzing government policies and assessing their impact, especially on our most vulnerable populations. In other areas, he always listened carefully and collaborated very effectively with others, a key in the academic, political, and professional realms. During group project work, he was patient with his fellow students and thoughtful. Other students valued his contributions and enjoyed working with him. In short, he is an empathetic person, concerned about the direction of our nation and the obvious burdens faced by other Americans, especially people in the margins. He is determined to make a difference. He was thriving at the Tacoma campus, working effectively in diverse groups and producing excellent outcomes. I fully support George's goal of procuring enough assistance to complete his academic goals at TCC. He is a talented student with great potential. Please feel free to contact me batchup at Evergreen EDU if you have further questions. C.R. Taylor Law, P.E.S. 203 4th Avenue East Suite 407. Olympia, Washington 98501. March 9, 2022. To whom it may concern. I am writing concerning George Hoyt. I am an attorney, in practice continuously since 2006. Between 2007 and 2011, I worked with a firm called the Evergreen Law Group, PES, located in Olympia, Washington. I was one of the managing partners of the firm, beginning in 2009. During that time, I represented individuals accused of crimes and represented people who had been the victims of police misconduct in civil, federal litigation. In 2010, the Evergreen Law Group employed George Hoyt as an intern. As one of the managing partners, I had the opportunity to both supervise and work closely with Mr. Hoyt. As I recall, Mr. Hoyt's job duties included both duties along the lines of a legal assistant, answering the telephone, greeting clients, filing legal documents, assisting with organizing the calendar, but also assisting with developing a marketing strategy. In particular, I recall Mr. Hoyt assisting in writing a script for a video advertisement, and actually appeared as an actor in that video. My recollection is that Mr. Hoyt was eager to learn about the interworkings of a criminal defense/police misconduct legal practice, and more than capable of providing a positive contribution. Mr. Hoyt reached out to me recently and indicated he is currently enrolled in a paralegal program at Tacoma Community College. I worked with a graduate of that program in the past, and am aware of other attorney colleagues also using that program as a source of office staff. I have no concerns about Mr. Hoyt's ability to complete the program and find work in the legal field upon graduation. Regards, /S/Christopher Taylor. Christopher Taylor, Attorney at Law. 36035280004, voice, Taylor Law. Com 36057010006, fax.
21st, 2022. To whom it may concern. RE. Reference for George Hoyta. Please accept this letter of reference and recommendation for Mr. Hoyta, whom I have known since he was my high school student during the early 1990s and throughout the time since then. I have no reservations whatsoever in my support for this young man whose brilliance and capabilities have, unfortunately, been obscured and untapped by the circumstances of his life for much of his young adulthood. Mr. Hoyta has a keen intellect, a love of knowledge and a strong work ethic, the likes of which I truly have not seen many times in my 35+ years as an educator. Beyond that, he has a deep and abiding love of humanity and strives always, in his personal and professional life, to work for truth, equality and justice for all. As the only child of his invalid mother, Mr. Hoyta's launch into the fullness of his potential has been postponed for nearly 20 years because he cared for his mother, for the past 7 years, full-time. Since his mother's recent passing, he has been working, with support from Employment Security, Workforce Education Services Tacoma Community College and staff and faculty who know him, to complete a paralegal studies degree. Mr. Hoyta has aspired to be a lawyer for as long as I've known him, and he is finally in a place where he can begin to realize a career in the legal profession. Right now, he is facing yet another hurdle. After applying for unemployment and beginning studies under the Worker Retraining Grant Program, he was informed by Employment Security that he wouldn't qualify for training benefits because paralegal is not currently in demand. It happens that one of my professional roles for over 5 years was as Worker Retraining Specialist, and so I have been also assisting him with advice on appealing this decision. I have no doubt that Mr. Hoyta, given the chance to complete his paralegal degree while continuing to collect his unemployment, will be very successful in his legal career. He is a fine young man with drive and determination and is exactly the kind of person we want in our legal profession. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely. Lori Arnold, M.Ed. Independent Consultant. clarityinc@gmail.com.
writ of habeas corpus concerning George Randolph Hoyt Jr. to the court concerning the involuntary imprisonment of the body and person of George R. Hoyt Jr., I am requesting the immediate release of Tay defendant and forced medical treatment from police and fire department and the unmust exploring and invasion of home and property. We direct to violations provided and protected by a Bill of Rights in America. Home invasion. Kidnapping, no due process assault. Destruction of private property. Possible arson. Asset removal. This is the second time the police have attempted a home invasion of my apartment, and I want to be free from this harassment and be compensated for my pain and suffering. George R. Hoyt. Last Will and Testimony. By George Ramsage Hoyt Jr., George Randolph Hoyt Jr., George Rampehayamur, Dominance Fortune the Infamous Game Untamed, Surve Notice, R.A. Destruction, Salim Osiris Shabazz, Dismas Emmanuel Amur. To whom it may concern. By no stretch of the imagination am I suical or particularly homicalid. However, in the event of my untimely death for any reason, I have sound mind and body do leave all my worldly possessions, donated to the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus, Maxine Mims / Carol Mitchell, IBJ. In the event, there is to be no resuscitatin, not equals no organ donorship. Just burn the body. I love you all, Tacoma, WA. Yours truly, GRA, Black Sheep of Tacoma, Dismas EA Tel Victoria. Dear Vina, Spanish Hills Management. I have read and reviewed your noticeably signed eviction document, and agree that the perceived facts seem concerning. However, the lack of due process in this case and the fact that this is the second home invasion in 6 months leads me to believe that the true facts of the matter can be resolved strictly by reviewing the unedited footage of the firefighters and police body cameras from forced entry to kidnapping without due process to involuntary imprisonment. Please consider these bodies of evidence before making any further reckless accusaciones. George R. Hoyt 2,533,015,421 Room 1416. To Wellbound Doc Unit. I understand that due to a lack of my medication, I was admitted into involuntary care at Wellbound Hospital. After weeks of treatment, I am feeling fine, and want to be discharged as soon as possible. Things I need: my food stamp card, my Apple insurance card, social security card, and a bus pass. Spanish Hills living conditions should know a plan where meds can be delivered to my door. These are my requests, and I'm asking to be relieved from custody immediately. Thank you, Gr. Hoyt. To Tom Horton. I am hoping for a temporary discharge as soon as possible, as I need to pack up my belongings and put them in storage since I have now been evicted due to the lies and half-truths of the police and fire department. Judge and Mr. Josh Cook. I went out today to take of my business. My eviction is due on the 8th of July. I have a lot of packing to do. To Maxine Mims. In the event that I cannot hold on to my mother's works of art, I give them to Maxine Mims and Carol Mitchell, who have proven to me that they are most capable of using their mysterious powers responsibly. To my SW, I would like to set up my EBT card and Medicaid card as soon as possible. Thank you. To Mark Anthony Urban / Chavez. I am writing to request a copy of the transcript and any video / audio of my trial for my personal archive. I am also requested an appeal on this decision, as it is my estimation that mens rea and foul play have been involved. I am also requesting the other 2 court appearances transcript / audio / video done in November-December 2022 at Multicare Hospital. To Dr. Hoa Dr. Emily Robinson of Ellenmore. Dr. Hoa was the one who signed my beloved mother's death certificate. At the time, so much madness was going around me that I never got to say goodbye to my mother Anastasia Armorer. I would like all documents, video and audio, and what was done to save her life, and her final moments, immediately. To Dr. Emily Robinson. Whether strictly liable or negligent, your steroid injection was the catalyst that made my mom's inflammation spread so fast around her body she was unable to move. This matter is far from legally settled between us. To Angela Naylor, CEO, Chris Ray Keenas, CFO, Brian Neal MD, CMO, Ryami and Service, CCO, Crystal Edwards, Director of Utilization Management. We the inmonts both voluntary and involuntarily, by way of expectation under constitutional law, and just plain human ethics, have certain demands that we want to see happen here at EWB Hospital. We want access to internet and email facility for the patients. We want a room provided for exercise equipment. We find it ridiculous to be constantly fed and not be able to work off calories contributing to poor health. We want the right to refuse any medication that would destroy or change sexual energy or orientation to be charged with a crime before a crime is committed is illegal at worst, and unethical at best. We want complete access to the local and global news. The excuse of trigger to keep us isolated from the outside world is unacceptable. Those that don't want to see the news always have the power to leave the room. Only the universe or the Most High gives or grants rights. Rights are a manner of ownership. We, as living entities, as the sole owners of our purpose and our jounery. Therefore, we humble challenge whether our righties can be diminished or taken away under any circumstance. Rights can only be imposed by a corrupt government that has tread over the Bill of Rights, and now threaten the belief of rule of law here in America. Sincerely yours. Chattel named George R. Hoy Jr., Acutol named Dismas Emmanuel Amer. Dear Wellfound, I am making a few requests concerning my situation here at Wellfound, and would like to be pointed in the right directions to those who could help me. The true nature of my illness, I would like to speak to my provider and perhaps see their files concerning my treatment for said illness. I would like a copy of the fire department and police report, including unedited body camera footage of both for my personal discovery and defense testimony. I would like multicare involuntary administration, no due process, of my person in November of 2022. Paperwork files and all audio/video conflict footage for my personal discovery for my archives. I also request all conflict footage audio/video from Wellfound along with all court transcripts for my archives for discovery and defense testimony. I will be requesting from Multicare all files and footage of the death of my mother, Anastasia Amurer, as her HCA and only son. In short, I will be seeking to countersue for all rights diminished or